How to open the third eye is perhaps the most asked question I have ever gotten. In this video, that's all we're going to talk about. So let's begin. So you have to understand one thing, okay? So we are living in this third dimensional reality. Our bodies exist in this third dimensional reality. But who are we? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. This means that at the core of who we are just actually spiritual beings having a human experience, which means that we have a body. We are a spirit that has a body. And in the body that we occupy, this physical human body, it has its pair of external eyes, or the 5 physical senses that we use to perceive of the external reality. So the body has the 5 physical senses that it uses to perceive reality, right? But then your higher self, your spiritual self, also has its pairs of eyes. So the third eye is actually the spiritual eyes. And when you learn how to access the third eye, what it means is that you get to access what happens in the higher dimensions, right? Let me get you up to speed. So if you don't know, like I said, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and there are 3 planes of existence, or there are 3 planes or dimensions that we get to experience our lives here on earth. The first plane is known as the physical plane, or the third dimensional reality. This is the realm of the physical things, the objects that you touch, the things that you see with the 5 physical senses, all exist in this third dimensional reality, right? Then we also have the mental plane. The mental plane is a bit higher than the physical plane, but it's not the highest. Then we have the spiritual plane. This is arguably the highest plane of existence for us. So in the spiritual plane is where your spiritual self, your higher self, exists. So what is the difference between the third dimensional reality and the higher dimension of the spiritual plane? This is the difference. The body, which is the vessel that the spirit uses, exists in the physical world. And in this physical world, there are limitations to what one can do. For example, in this physical world, we are constrained by the laws of time and space. This is to say that if you want to move from point A to point B, you just need time and space, okay? You can't just vanish and appear to the other part, right? You need to move linear, okay? So we have the concept of time. So time is needed in the third dimensional reality. This is also why when people want to manifest the desired reality, it does not happen instantly. Why? Because there are the laws of time, and they are what happen in this dimension of the physical reality, right? But on the higher dimension, where your higher self is, where your spiritual self is, where your God self is, in that dimension, there is no time. The concept of time does not apply there. Why? Because in the spiritual dimension, physical things do not exist. We don't deal with matter, okay? So your higher self exists at all times, in the past, in the future, and in the present. This is why we normally teach people how to tap into their higher self, so that because the higher self exists across all timelines, the past, the future, and the present, when you tap in to your higher self, it can be able to show you or guide you on what you're supposed to do for you to evolve or move on your right path, okay? So your higher self is in the future, is in 2025, is in 2030, and the rest. So when you tap into it, that is when you acquire, or you become good with your intuition. You become good with your instincts or your intuition. Intuition simply means the inner guidance, and the inner guidance that we're talking about here is the higher self, right? So in the spiritual dimension, we have your spiritual self, but the spiritual self also has its eyes, okay? And its eyes are only capable of seeing things that exist in the spiritual realm or the spiritual dimensions. Remember, everything is simply energy, okay? Tangible things, intangible things. And when we say the spiritual realm is the realm of the unseen, remember, we have a realm of the unseen, which is the spiritual realm. Even though these things are unseen, they are still there, and they are still the things that govern our lives. So the higher dimensions, the spiritual dimension, the mental dimension, are higher than the physical. And these higher dimensions are what actually influence what we get to experience on this physical reality, right? So if you want to manifest anything, you've got to learn how to tap onto your higher self. You've got to learn how to access the spiritual realm, and from that point of the spiritual and mental planes, that is when creation begins. And then here on the third dimensional reality, or the physical reality, this is the realm of the experience. This is the realm of effect, right? So if you wish to change anything, you don't change anything by taking action only. Yeah, you have got to understand the cause. The cause is gradually or naturally the higher planes. The mental and spiritual are the causes of everything that you get to experience on the physical plane. So if at all you want to change anything about your life, you don't start working on the physical plane. You tap into the spiritual and mental planes. So let's go back to what we're talking about. So the spiritual self, your higher self, also has its pairs of eyes. And these eyes are what enables you to see things in the spiritual realm. So people who open their third eye, they become more, they raise their perception, right? They become more perceptive. This means that they can be able even to see danger before it happens. They can see what's about to happen in the future. Their intuition raises so much that they become like they can see what me and you cannot see. Many people who are psychics, many people who are seers and prophets, these are people that in one way or another, they have that access of their third eye. They have opened their third eye, right? So that eye opening is very important, but many people ask, how do they actually go about opening it? And this is why I want to really blow your mind, right? So opening of the third eye is more like telling someone or someone asking me, how do you actually show them how to breathe? Remember, you're always breathing, you're always doing it. But if you are not aware that you are breathing, you don't see, there is no power in that action, right? That applies to the third eye. The third eye, or the spiritual self, is always there. It is always open. But if you are not aware of its presence, then it loses its power. If anything, if you lose awareness of everything in your life, then it loses power, right? If you don't know about something, it has no power over you. So the third eye is ultimately already open. It is there, but you just have to become aware of it so that you can actually tap in its power, right? So what you have to do to become aware of the third eye and how it works, you've got to learn where the higher self and the lower self actually connect. The lower self is the physical body, right? The higher self is your spiritual self. You've got to learn where the higher self and the lower self actually meet. And whereby they meet, that is where you can learn how to tap in to being aware of how your third eye works and even heighten your intuitive skills, right? So remember, I told you that the spiritual self actually exists at all timelines, the past, the future, and the present, right? But the lower self cannot access the past. If the past is the past, you can't access it. It's gone. The future also, you can't access it. It's in the future, right? But there is one thing in common between the past, the past and the future. And that thing which is the one thing that they have in common is the present moment. Why? Because no one can ever experience the past as the past. You can't go back and experience the past now. You can't move from this point and go and experience the future, right? The only way to experience the future is through the present moment. That thing which you think is in the future will unfold in the present moment, right? As of now is the only time, right? So what you think is in the future will only unfold in the present moment. The other side is also true. What you experience as the past, you experienced it in the now, in the present moment, and then it drifted away into the past. So the past is the middle ground for the present is the middle ground for the past and the future. And remember, I told you, your higher self also exists across all timelines, the past, the present, and the future. So the only moment in time whereby you can get in touch or in tune with the higher self to be able to open your third eye is when you are in the present moment. Remember, the present moment is where your lower self is, but also your higher self is at all times in the present, in the future, and in the past. So in order for you to get in tune with it, you've got to be in the present moment. And how do you actually go about being in the present moment? How do you actually do this? Now, the one thing that hinders you from being in the present moment is the ego. What is the ego? The ego is this false identity or this image that your mind creates of who you think you are. So as you are growing up, as you are going to school, during your upbringing while you are a child, right? there are programs that you collect. These programs that you collect, they program your subconscious, right? So when your subconscious is programmed by these programs that you collect, there is this kind of way that you think, there is this kind of way that you look at life, there is this kind of way that you relate to yourself and to the world around you. In other words, you form an image, an identity of what you think you are based on your conditioning, which are the programs that you take on, and based on what you saw other people doing, or what your parents, the relatives, and the society were doing to you, or what you saw them doing, or what they told you as you grow up. So most of us grow up with this kind of identity, and this identity is what we call the ego, or also the lower self. So this lower self hinders us from accessing the present moment. Why? Because this lower self is actually created by your mind, right? So this means that we are always in our minds, and we reached a point whereby we mistake, or we think that we are actually the mind. The moment you misidentify yourself with the mind, you've given power to the lower self, right? So being in the mind simply means that you derive your identity from the mind. It means that you are always thinking either about the past, what happened in the past, you bring about the past events, and then you start feeling the negative emotions of the past in the present moment. Or you project into the future. You look at the future and see things that you would like to create and have in your life. And then instead of being in the present moment, you are either in the past or in the future, right? So what you do is this. In order for you to enter into the present moment so that you can connect with your higher self, you've got to bring an end, or cause a cessation in the mental stream of thought. You've got to cut, or cancel, or stop thinking. The moment you stop thinking, which means that the moment you stop creating past events and stop projecting future outcomes, when thinking stops, you naturally enter into the present moment. Okay, the other way you enter into the present moment is through meditating, or focusing single-mindedly on one thing. So to enter into the present moment, you either meditate or you stop thinking. Okay, so how do you stop thinking? The way you stop thinking is by watching the mind, becoming the observer of what is coming up. Whenever a thought is coming up, observe it, become aware that it exists, and then make a conscious effort of going into the present moment, which simply means your attention is in what your physical senses can detect. So let's say you are seated there, something comes up into your mind, you become aware that something has come up in your mind. So what you do afterwards is you focus on what you are seeing. Maybe it's this microphone, I just focus all my attention on this microphone. Maybe it's you on the camera, I focus all my attention on you. Maybe it's someone you're speaking to, maybe it's a flower, maybe it's a baby. You focus all your attention on what you're saying. You focus all your attention on what is happening now, what you are hearing, how you are feeling, how does this seat feels. That is simply how you enter into the now, into the present moment, by simply focusing on what you're happening. And also you can even focus on your breathing, because breathing is always happening in the present moment. So the more you do that, the more you start feeling something change. You start to feel a shift. Yeah, you are feeling you start feeling good, feeling peaceful. The more you do it, you'll reach a point whereby you start feeling an inner guidance, an intuitive feelings, intuitive thoughts. Maybe you just feel, I have to go to a certain place. When you go to that place, you find that that is the place that you are supposed to go. Maybe you feel you have to go somewhere. You go to that place. Then you find that the moment you left where you are at, something tragic has happened. And that is simply how you realize that you've already become aware of your third eye, and you're starting to communicate with it. And this means that you should also be able to depict what is it you're feeling. Yeah, it's not just about observing the thoughts, also observe the emotions. The more you become in tune with yourself, you exactly know what you think, what you feel. You shed awareness, right? The only way to get rid of the darkness is not with more darkness, is by shedding awareness into the darkness. That is how you shed light. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really would appreciate if you would leave a like on this video, because the algorithm likes that. And also don't forget to subscribe and watch this new video, or this video that I've posted, for more updates. And I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay blessed, and stay awakened.